this video is about. She stood alone at the bar until a millionaire started talking to her, making her heart race. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you are watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. The dim glow of the bar lights flickered like distant stars, softening the edges of the world outside. A low hum of conversation filled the air, punctuated occasionally by laughter or the clink of glasses. In the corner of the room, under a cluster of shimmering chandeliers, a leaner heart stood alone, her fingers curled around a glass of Merlot. It was her ritual to come to the Velvet Room every Friday night, a small sanctuary from the chaos of her life. Alina looked around, her keen emerald eyes scanning the room. She was dressed in a simple yet elegant black dress that hugged her curves, its neckline delicate and understated. The fabric felt like a second skin, a reminder that her appearance was one of the few things she could control. Her dark hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, framing a face that was both striking and vulnerable. It was a face that had seen too much yet retained an innocence that drew people in, like a moth to a flame. But tonight she felt particularly invisible. The bar was filled with laughter and flirtation, couples leaning into each other, their chemistry palpable. Yet Alina felt removed from it all, as if she were watching a movie unfold from a distance, unable to step into the scene. She took a sip of her wine, relishing the rich, velvety texture as it slid down her throat, hoping it would wash away the lingering loneliness that clung to her like a shadow. As she swirled her glass, she caught a glimpse of a man at the opposite end of the bar. He was tall, with broad shoulders and an air of confidence that was almost magnetic. His dark hair was tousled just enough to appear effortless, and his jawline was sharp, softened only by the light stubble that framed it. He was engaged in conversation with a group of people, laughter spilling from his lips, but his gaze seemed to wander, even as he conversed animatedly. Alina felt an instinctive pull toward him, one that felt both thrilling and terrifying. She couldn't remember the last time someone had made her heart race like this, a sensation that had been buried under layers of responsibility and heartache. Another glass of Merlot. The bartender, a young man with a friendly smile, interrupted her thoughts. She shook her head, feeling the warmth of the wine settle into her cheeks. "No, I think I'll stay with this one for now." "Suit yourself," he said with a grin before turning his attention back to the busy bar. Alina returned her gaze to the man. He had paused, his laughter fading as he locked eyes with her. There was a flicker of recognition, a moment that felt electric, and she quickly looked away, her heart pounding in her chest. Was he looking at her? She fought the urge to check again, afraid that any movement would shatter the fragile bubble of intrigue that enveloped her. Minutes slipped by like grains of sand. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her, and when she finally dared to look again, he was closer, standing a few feet away, leaning against the bar with an easy grace. "Mind if I join you?" His voice was smooth, a rich timbre that made her heart skip yet again. Alina took a moment, her breath catching in her throat. "I suppose that depends on your intentions," she replied, her lips curving into a teasing smile. His eyes sparkled with mischief. "I'm just a humble admirer of good wine and captivating company. I promise I'm not here to steal your drink or your heart." He chuckled softly, the sound low and inviting. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the way he seamlessly bantered. "And what if I told you my heart has already been claimed by a lifetime of disappointments?" "Then I'd tell you that's a damn shame," he said, tilting his head slightly as he studied her. "Because I can't help but feel you've got a beautiful heart in there, waiting for the right opportunity to shine." Alina felt the warmth of a blush creeping up her neck, unsure if it was the wine or his words that ignited the heat. "And tell me, What makes you qualified to make such a judgment? I'm a businessman, a millionaire, but I've learned that wealth means little without understanding the intricacies of people. I've met my share of broken hearts and hidden beauty, he said, his expression growing serious for a moment. I'm Jacob, by the way. Eleanor, she replied, holding his gaze, feeling an unexpected connection spark between them. Eleanor, he repeated, letting her name linger in the air. That suits you. It sounds like a name belonging to someone who has stories to tell. She chuckled softly, surprised at how easy the conversation flowed like a well-rehearsed dance. I suppose I do have a few tales, but tonight isn't about stories. It's about escaping them. An escape artist, I like that, Jacob said, his eyes never leaving hers. Then let's escape together, if only for a moment. What do you say we share a secret? Intrigued, Eleanor leaned in, drawn by the intensity of his gaze. A secret. Now you have my attention. He lowered his voice as if sharing a clandestine confession. I'm not just a businessman. I've recently sold my company, and I'm taking some time off to discover what I really want to do with my life. I'm trying to figure out who I am outside of boardrooms and meetings. Eleanor's curiosity piqued. That sounds liberating and terrifying. It is, he admitted, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his features. But I want to live, not just exist. What about you? What's your escape? Taking a deep breath, Eleanor thought about the weight of her own life, the responsibilities, the expectations, the constant push to be something she was. I used to think I had dreams, but those have faded over the years. Now, I come here to escape the noise of reality and to remind myself that I'm still alive, that joy can still exist. His expression softened, genuine empathy reflecting in his eyes. You deserve joy, Eleanor. Everyone does. A comfortable silence settled between them, a shared understanding forming in the space where words had danced just moments before. As she took another sip of her wine, Eleanor realized how refreshing it was to speak so openly with someone. It felt like shedding layers of armor she had worn for far too long. I have to admit, Jacob said, breaking the silence, I was drawn to you the moment I walked into this bar. There's something about you that feels different. Different in a good way, I hope. She asked, a playful smile curling her lips. Absolutely. You have a light even in the shadows, he replied, his voice low and sincere. Eleanor felt a rush of warmth flood her heart, a mix of flattery and something deeper, a longing for connection, for understanding that had been absent for far too long. That's quite the compliment coming from a millionaire, she teased lightly, trying to mask the intensity of her own emotions. He chuckled, a rich, full sound that sent a cascade of warmth through her. Don't let the title fool you. Money can afford many things, but it doesn't buy authenticity. It's the people we connect with that truly matter. Wise words for someone trying to escape the corporate world, she replied, her heart racing at their burgeoning connection. Each moment felt charged, intense, as if the universe was conspiring to bring them together in this fleeting moment of vulnerability. Jacob leaned closer, his eyes narrowing as if he were about to share another secret. And what if I told you I want to know the story behind your beautiful heart? Eleanor felt the weight of his gaze, a mixture of desire and curiosity that made her pulse quicken. That might take longer than a glass of Merlot, she said softly, feeling a mixture of fear and thrill at the prospect. Then let's make a night of it, he suggested, his tone playful but laced with sincerity. I want to hear your stories, Eleanor. I want to find out what makes you tick. Will you let me? Though part of her hesitated, afraid of letting someone in, the other part, the part that craved connection and light, felt compelled to say yes. All right, Jacob. Let's escape together, even if it's just for tonight. As the bar bustled around them, they began to weave their narratives. Two souls caught in a moment of serendipity, each word drawing them closer into an intricate dance of vulnerability and connection. And in that dimly lit room, underneath the soft glow of the chandeliers, Eleanor felt the first stirrings of hope awaken within her heart. Eleanor took a deep breath as if she were submerging herself in a cool pool of water, ready to explore the depths of connection. The bar, which felt like a protective cocoon just moments ago, now buzzed with the electric potential of new beginnings. Jacob's presence anchored her, steady in the swirling chaos that surrounded them. "Tell me about one of those stories then," he encouraged, his voice velvet smooth, pulling her from her contemplative state. "Something that makes you who you are today." She hesitated, swirling the remnants of her wine, the rich aroma wafting up to greet her as she formulated her thoughts. "Well," she began slowly, "I grew up in a small town, the kind that felt like it was frozen in time, where everyone knew each other's business. I was expected to follow a certain path, good grades, college, a respectable job, but I always felt boxed in." Jacob leaned in closer, elbows resting on the bar, his eyes glinting with genuine interest. "And did you follow that path?" "I did for a while," she admitted, fidgeting with her glass. "I went to college, got a degree in marketing. I thought it would lead me to something fulfilling, but the deeper I got, the more I realized it wasn't for me. I found myself chained to a desk, crafting campaigns for products I didn't believe in. It felt so empty." "Sounds suffocating," he said, nodding in understanding. "What changed? What made you step away?" "I had a moment," she explained, her voice softening. "My best friend got sick unexpectedly. It was a wake-up call, a reminder that life is fragile. I had been so focused on the future that I had forgotten to live in the now. After she passed, I realized I had been holding onto a life that wasn't mine. I needed to break free, even if it meant starting over." "Eleanor," he said gently, "that takes immense courage. I can't imagine what it must have felt like to lose someone so close." Tears pricked at the corner of her eyes, but she blinked them back, grateful for the warmth in his voice. "It was hard, but I think it also allowed me to rediscover who I was, to embrace the chaos. So here I am, finding solace in this bar, trying to live authentically, even if I'm still figuring out what that looks like." Jacob's expression shifted, a mix of admiration and empathy swirling in the depths of his eyes. "I find that incredibly inspiring. It's not easy to shed expectations and start from scratch. I can relate to feeling trapped by the weight of others' expectations. My parents always wanted me to take over the family business, but it never felt like my calling. I wanted to create something of my own, something that resonated with my values." This revelation hung in the air, the connection between them deepening, woven together by their shared struggles. Eleanor felt an undeniable chemistry, a spark that ignited in the quiet spaces between their words. "That's brave too," she replied, her heart pounding with a mix of admiration and intrigue. "What did you end up creating?" He smiled, a flicker of pride dancing in his features. "A tech startup. We focused on sustainability, using technology to create solutions for environmental issues. It was exhilarating, but it came with its own set of challenges. I poured everything into it, and when it took off, I found myself drowning in meetings and numbers, instead of being the visionary I wanted to be." "Did you love it?" she asked, captivated by his tale. "Sometimes," he admitted, a shadow crossing his face. "But I also lost sight of what drove me. I became just another millionaire in an endless cycle of profit. That's why I decided to sell. I wanted to reclaim my life, my passions, and maybe even go back to school to study environmental science." "That sounds like an adventure," Eleanor said, feeling a thrill of excitement for him. "Are you scared?" "Terrified," he replied, a glint of vulnerability shining through. "But I'm ready for it. I've spent too long living for others and I want to rediscover my purpose. I think you will, she said, feeling an unexpected surge of confidence. You have a spark in you, Jacob. I can sense it. He grinned, the warmth spreading across his features, and it felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. And you, Alina, have a depth that's intoxicating. I'm drawn to your honesty. It's refreshing. A soft blush crept up her cheeks, and she met his gaze with a mixture of shyness and appreciation. Thank you. It's easy to open up to someone who listens the way you do. He leaned closer, a conspiratorial glint in his eyes. Then let's make a pact. I'll share my dreams and you'll share yours. No more hiding behind barriers, just the two of us exploring the possibilities. Alina felt her heart flutter. All right, she said, emboldened by his words. I'll go first. My dream is to travel, to see the world, experience different cultures, and write about them. I've always wanted to be a travel writer, but fear held me back. I've spent so long convincing myself I couldn't, but now, she hesitated, swallowing the lump that formed in her throat. Now I think it's time to try. Why not? Jacob encouraged, his tone earnest. Your stories deserve to be told. Just imagine exploring the hidden corners of the world and sharing your journey with others. You could inspire so many people. I'd love that, Alina said, a smile breaking across her face. But it feels like a stretch, a leap of faith. Isn't life just a series of leaps? He proposed, his eyes sparkling with encouragement. I mean, look at us. Two strangers in a bar sharing our dreams and secrets. That's a leap. Alina couldn't suppress a laugh, her heart dancing at the thought. You're right, a leap into the unknown. Exactly, Jacob said, a hint of mischief in his voice. And what if we took that leap together? I mean, wouldn't it be amazing to travel and write? You could have your stories and I could. Well, I don't know what I'd do, but I'm sure I'd find a way to contribute. The idea hung in the air like a sweet promise, enticing and exhilarating. You don't just want to be my travel companion, do you? She teased, her heart racing at the thought. I'd be honored, he replied, his voice low and sincere. But only if you promise to share every story. I want to be there when you discover the beauty of the world. Their eyes locked, the intensity of the moment sinking deep into her heart. The chemistry crackled like electricity, and she felt an unexpected thrill at the thought of sharing such experiences with him. It's a deal, Jacob, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But we have to keep our wits about us. I might be a terrible travel partner. I highly doubt that, he countered, a playful smile tugging at the corner of his lips. But if you are, I'll just have to charm you into enjoying it. She laughed, a genuine sound that lit up the dim bar. You think you can charm me? Just watch, he said, leaning back slightly but maintaining that magnetic gaze. But for now, let's toast to new beginnings and dreams yet to be chased. Alina raised her glass, feeling a rush of warmth flutter through her. To new beginnings, she echoed, clinking her glass against his. As the glasses met, the sound echoed like a promise of adventures yet to unfold, of stories waiting to be written, and of a burgeoning connection that felt destined to ignite. With each sip and shared laughter, the barriers she had built slowly crumbled, replaced by a flicker of hope and the thrill of possibility. In the dim light of the velvet room, Alina's heart felt alive again, and for the first time in a long time, she dared to believe that it was just the beginning. As the glasses clinked, a comforting warmth spread through Alina, a gentle reminder that life had a way of stirring up unexpected connections. She couldn't shake off the feeling that this was a moment she would look back on, a turning point from her solitary existence to a more vibrant, interconnected reality. Jacob's laugh filled the air, rich and sincere, and she found herself entranced by the way his eyes sparkled when he spoke, as if he saw the world in colors she had long forgotten. "All right," Jacob said, settling back against the bar, his gaze still locked on her. "You've shared a glimpse into your dreams. Now it's my turn. What shall I reveal about my illustrious life as a millionaire?" Eleanor smiled, leaning in closer, intrigued by the playful challenge in his tone. "Illustrious? Is that what you call it?" "I'm trying to sell it," he grinned, the playful light in his eyes illuminating the space between them. "But the truth is often much less glamorous. I've been swamped in numbers and spreadsheets more than I'd like to admit. It's not exactly the stuff of dreams." "What did you dream about as a kid, then?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. What did little Jacob want to be when he grew up? He chuckled softly, a hint of nostalgia clouding his features. "I wanted to be an astronaut. I was obsessed with the stars, with the idea of exploring the unknown. I even had a telescope set up in my backyard. My parents thought I'd grow out of it, but I spent countless nights lying on the grass, imagining what it would be like to float in the cosmos." Eleanor could picture him as a child, eyes wide with wonder, dreaming under a blanket of stars. "That sounds beautiful. What changed?" "Reality, I suppose," he replied, his voice slightly more somber. "I had to face the fact that the math involved in becoming an astronaut was beyond my grasp, not to mention the years of training and dedication required. So I settled for something more attainable. People always told me business was the way to go. It's practical, it's safe." "Safe," Eleanor echoed, feeling a pang of recognition. "It's amazing how often we let practicality dictate our paths, isn't it?" Jacob nodded, his expression serious. "But deep down, there's still that kid who stares up at the stars, dreaming of what could be. That part of me wants to break free from the confines of expectations, just like you." A comfortable silence enveloped them, dense with shared understanding and unspoken fears. Eleanor found herself captivated by Jacob's honesty, feeling an inexplicable bond forming between them, a thread tethering their dreams, disappointments, and the very essence of who they were. "What's stopping you from pursuing your dreams?" she asked softly, her heart racing at the vulnerability of the moment. He hesitated, searching for the right words. "I think it's fear. Fear of failure. Fear of disappointing people who have invested so much in my success. It's easier to hide behind a title, to let my bank account speak for me, than to risk everything on a dream." "Easier but not fulfilling," Eleanor replied, her eyes locked onto his, sensing the weight of his dilemma. "What if you fail? What if you do?" "Exactly," he said, leaning in closer, the intensity of his gaze almost palpable. "But what if I succeed? What if I discover something beyond my wildest dreams? That's the beauty of it, isn't it?" She mused, a smile creeping onto her face. "Every leap can lead to something extraordinary. You just have to take the first step." "Then maybe I should," he said, the determination growing in his voice. "Maybe I should stop waiting for a sign and just do it." Eleanor's heart soared at his words, feeling the momentum of their conversation building with exhilarating energy. "I think you should. We both should. We can hold each other accountable for our dreams." Jacob's smile widened, a warmth that left her breathless. "I like that idea. Two dreamers supporting each other in a world full of practicality. It sounds like a recipe for adventure." "Adventure," she echoed, the word tasting sweet on her tongue. "What does adventure even mean to you anymore?" "It means taking risks," he said, his voice low. "It means exploring uncharted territories, whether that's in business, travel, or personal relationships. It's about being open to new experiences, to the kind of spontaneity that gets your heart racing." The air between them thickened with unspoken possibilities, and Eleanor felt a thrill scuttle down her spine. "Spontaneity can be rather intoxicating," she said softly, their eyes interlocking with a charged intensity that made her pulse race. "It can lead to great things or unexpected detours." Detours can be the most interesting part of the journey, Jacob replied, his tone teasing yet sincere. Maybe we should embrace those detours, create our own paths. Are you suggesting we become adventurers? Alina teased, her heart pounding as she leaned closer, drawn in by the magnetic pull between them. I am, he said, his voice low and inviting. You, me, and a world full of possibilities. We could explore everything life has to offer together. The weight of his words settled between them, heavy with promise and possibility. Alina felt her heart race, the vulnerability of the moment enveloping her like a warm embrace. Together, she repeated softly, feeling the depth of the connection forming with each passing second. Jacob leaned in closer, his expression shifting from playful to serious, the room around them fading into nothingness. Alina, I know we've just met, but there's something about you that feels pivotal. I don't know where this will lead, but I want to find out. The honesty in his gaze sent a shiver of excitement through her. I feel it too, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. There's a spark, a chemistry that's undeniable. But I've been hurt before, and I'm afraid of letting someone in too quickly. I get that, he said gently, a softness in his tone that brought her comfort. We don't have to rush anything. We can take our time, explore this connection at our own pace. No expectations, just two people enjoying each other's company. The sincerity in his words resonated deep within her, calming the storm of uncertainty swirling in her heart. I'd like that, she replied, her voice filled with hope. I'd like that a lot. They shared a moment of silence, both lost in the depths of their gaze, the air crackling with uncharted potential. She could feel the energy shifting, a palpable tension that hung between them like a silver thread, binding their fates in a way that felt both frightening and exhilarating. Tell me about your travels, Jacob said, breaking the spell, leaning back slightly yet keeping his eyes locked on hers. Where would you go first? Everywhere, Alina replied, feeling the rush of excitement bubble within her. But I've always dreamed of going to Italy, wandering through the streets of Florence, tasting authentic gelato, soaking up the rich history. I want to scribble my thoughts in little cafes, inspired by the beauty around me. Florence sounds magical, he replied, the smile on his lips growing wider. And what if I joined you? We could explore the art, the culture, and maybe even find a hidden gem of a cafe where you could write your stories. Her heart fluttered at the thought of him by her side, sharing those experiences. You'd really want to travel with me. You don't think I'd hold you back from your grand adventures? On the contrary, he said, his voice steady and sincere. I think you'd make the adventure worthwhile. You're vibrant, Alina. You have a perspective that makes the mundane feel extraordinary. As the words wrapped around her like a warm blanket, she felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to crumble. You have a way with words, Jacob, she said, her heart racing. A way that makes me feel seen. Good, he replied, his expression growing serious. Because you deserve to be seen, Alina. You deserve to have someone who appreciates the beauty within you. His honesty struck her like a bolt of lightning, igniting something deep within. In that moment, surrounded by the dim lights of the velvet room, Alina felt the stirrings of hope and possibility take root in her heart. Maybe, just maybe, she was ready to let someone in again. As the conversation drifted, the hours slipped away, and beneath the soft glow of the bar lights, two kindred spirits found solace in each other's company, two dreamers bound by their shared longing for adventure and connection. They talked about their hopes, fears, and the future, a tapestry woven from threads of vulnerability and courage. And in that sanctuary of laughter and stories, Alina's heart realized that life, with all its unexpected turns, had brought her to this moment. A moment where she could finally embrace the possibility of love, adventure, and all the beauty that lay ahead. Alina felt as though she were walking on a tightrope, balancing precariously between the thrill of the moment and the lingering shadows of her past. Jacob's words hung in the air, an invitation to take a leap into the unknown, and though her heart raced with fear, it also soared with a sense of exhilaration she hadn't felt in years. "Tell me more about Italy," he prompted, leaning in closer, his voice low and inviting. "What are the first 3 things you'd want to do?" As she thought about it, Alina felt the warmth of connection bloom between them. "I'd visit the Uffizi Gallery first. I've always wanted to stand in front of Botticelli's The Birth of Venus, to see the colors in person, the way the light interacts with the canvas. Art has a way of telling stories that words sometimes can't capture," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Jacob listened intently, his gaze unwavering. "What's the second thing?" "My second stop would be the Ponte Vecchio, of course," she continued, her voice growing more animated. "I'd want to walk across it to feel the history beneath my feet. And maybe I'd buy a trinket from one of the jewelers there, a little something to remind me of the experience." "And the third?" he asked, a teasing smile playing on his lips. "That's easy," she said, biting her lip, the excitement bubbling over. "Gelato. I know it sounds cliché, but I want to sit in a piazza, a cone in my hand, and just watch life go by. I want to soak in the joy of it all. It feels like the essence of travel, you know. Simple moments that leave lasting impressions." Jacob chuckled, a rich sound that sent a thrill coursing through her. "I love it. Gelato and people watching sounds like the perfect combination. I'll make sure to join you for that." Alina's heart skipped at the thought of him by her side, sharing those little moments. "You're really serious about this, aren't you?" "Absolutely," he replied, the sincerity in his eyes unwavering. "But I have to ask, what if it goes beyond just travel? What if we end up exploring more than just the sights?" Alina paused, the gravity of his words settling in her chest. The thought of delving deeper into not just new places, but also new feelings was both exciting and terrifying. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice steady despite the flutter in her stomach. "I mean," he started, his expression shifting to one of earnestness, "what if we explore each other? I'm intrigued by you, Alina. There's something about your spirit that makes me want to know you more deeply. And I believe we could create something beautiful if we allow ourselves to." A blush crept up her cheeks, the weight of his gaze making her pulse race. "Jacob, you barely know me. Yet here we are, sharing dreams and fears like old friends," he countered, a playful grin breaking through the seriousness. "I'm not saying we rush headfirst into anything. I just believe that some connections are meant to be explored, regardless of the circumstances. Exploring uncharted territories, like you said," she replied softly, her heart racing at the possibility of what lay ahead. "Exactly," he affirmed, his voice warm and inviting. "And as much as I want to travel the world, I also want to travel through your thoughts and experiences, if you'll let me." Feeling the warmth of his words envelop her like a cozy blanket, Alina nodded slowly. "Okay," she said, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and vulnerability. "Let's take it one step at a time." "Agreed," Jacob said, his expression softening. "So tell me, what else do you dream about?" Alina hesitated, searching for the right words, a hint of uncertainty crossing her features. "I've thought about writing a book, a collection of stories from my travels, perhaps. But every time I sit down to write, I feel blocked, as if I'm afraid of what might come out." "Fear of judgment?" he asked gently, his eyes searching hers. "More like fear of failure," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if no one wants to read my stories? What if they're not good enough? I've spent years crafting the perfect narrative in my head, but when it comes time to write it down, I freeze up." "Alina," Jacob said, his tone soothing, "the fear of failure is something we all face. But think about it. Every story worth telling starts somewhere, even if it's imperfect. You have a unique voice. Don't let fear silence it. His encouragement felt like a lifeline, and for the first time, Eleanor saw a glimmer of hope. You really think so? I do, he replied, his gaze never wavering. And I'd love to help you overcome that block. Maybe we can set aside time during our travels for you to write. I could be your audience, your sounding board, whatever you need. She smiled, warmth flooding her heart at his sincerity. That could be really helpful. I've never had someone believe in me like that before. Then I'm honored to be that person, he said, his tone rich with sincerity. I want to see you flourish. Eleanor felt a connection deepen between them, an understanding that transcended the surface level. She was drawn to his kindness, his willingness to invest in her dreams, and it stirred something within her, a longing for closeness that she had buried for far too long. All right, let's do this, she said, her voice gaining strength. I'll take that leap. I'll embrace the fear and write. Jacob's eyes sparkled with delight and he raised his glass once more. To leaps of faith, he toasted, his voice low and filled with promise. To leaps of faith, she echoed, her heart swelling with possibilities as their glasses clinked together once more. The warmth of their connection enveloped them, and as the conversation flowed from dreams to fears, from laughter to tender moments of vulnerability, Eleanor felt herself opening up in ways she hadn't thought possible. Tell me, Jacob said, a mischievous glint in his eye, what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done? Eleanor chuckled, her mind racing back in time. Probably the time I decided to go skydiving with a group of friends. I was terrified but exhilarated. The moment I jumped out of the plane, I thought I might die, but it was also the most freeing feeling I've ever experienced. Skydiving, huh? He replied, giving her an impressed look. That's definitely adventurous. What was it like? It was like being in a dream, she said, her voice growing softer. For a moment, it felt like nothing else mattered. The world below became a blurry tapestry and I was just floating. It made me realize how much I'd been holding back in life. It sounds incredible, he said, leaning in closer, his voice filled with admiration. And it takes a lot of courage to jump out of a plane. Maybe, she said with a shy smile, but I think we're all capable of more courage than we realize. Exactly, Jacob replied, his eyes alight with passion. It's like taking that leap of faith. You never know what could happen unless you take that jump. There was a moment of silence between them, thick with unspoken truths and possibilities. Eleanor felt a thread weave itself between them, binding their hearts in a way that felt both magical and terrifying. Tell me about the most adventurous thing you've ever done, she said, her curiosity piqued. He pondered, a thoughtful look passing over his face. I did a charity climb of Mount Kilimanjaro a couple of years ago. It was physically demanding and emotionally exhausting, but it changed my perspective on life. Reaching the summit felt like conquering my own fears and limitations. Wow, Eleanor breathed, genuinely impressed. That sounds incredible. It must have been a transformative experience. It was, he agreed, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his voice. I learned that challenges can bring out the best in us. Pushing through the discomfort can reveal strengths we never knew we had. Eleanor felt her heart race at the depth of his honesty, the way he shared his experiences so openly. I love that. It's like a metaphor for life, isn't it? Exactly, he said, his gaze steady. Sometimes we have to face the storms to find our sun. Their conversation flowed seamlessly, moving from stories of adventure to revelations about their fears, dreams, and hopes. As they shared laughter and vulnerability, Eleanor felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to dissolve, replaced by a burgeoning connection that felt genuine and profound. You know, Jacob said, his voice softening, I've never really understood the power of human connection until now. It's like you can feel the weight of someone's soul, their story, and it makes you realize how interconnected we all are. Eleanor smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. I couldn't agree more. It's moments like these that remind me of the beauty in vulnerability, the strength it takes to share ourselves with others. Jacob's expression grew serious as he leaned closer, his eyes searching hers.